Welcome to Rome. This is The Bittersweet Life with Katie Sewell and Tiffany Parks. Hello, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katie Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Tiffany in Rome, Katie in Seattle. And if you're listening to this when the show actually comes out on Monday, it's Memorial Day weekend right now here in the United States, which means, I don't know, what's the stereotype? People are barbecuing. People are
Barbecues.
taking weekend camping trips. Yeah, I don't know. We don't usually do holiday-themed episodes unless they're around like the major holidays, like Christmas. But why not Memorial Day? Why not, right?
Sure.
And you were saying that this particular Memorial Day is an interesting time for you.
Yes. First of all, I should point out that Memorial Day does not exist in Italy.
Yes.
It's an American holiday. We have May 1st as our sort of big spring holiday, which is Labor Day. Our Labor Day is May 1st, as it is in most of the world. So it's not a holiday weekend for us. But May in Italy, especially in Catholic Italy, May is the month of the Virgin Mary, actually. Don't know if you know that. And May is the month of first communions.
Oh.
So every child has their first communion in May. I mean, there may be some exceptions, but pretty much it's always May.
Okay.
And so yesterday, as this is coming out, but of course we're taping in advance, so it hasn't happened yet. But yesterday is Aurelio's first communion.
Yes, Aurelio, your son. Now, before we talk about what it's entailed for him to do this, Italy is a Catholic country, particularly Rome, because it's the heart of the Catholic Church. But not everybody is religiously Catholic, I would say. They might be more culturally Catholic, but they might not be religiously Catholic. But what does it actually mean? Does that mean that every kid does a first communion, even if the family doesn't usually go to church? Kind of like people in the U.S. would go to church on Easter, but not necessarily year-round. What's it like there?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard for me to say because Aurelio goes to a Catholic school. And so everybody who sends their kid to a Catholic, not everybody, that's not true, not everybody, but the majority of people who send their kids to Catholic school is because they are either practicing or semi-practicing Catholics. Or maybe they're just cultural Catholics, but they want their kids to have that sort of tradition that maybe they had when they grew up. You know, there's some reason that you choose to send your kids to a Catholic school, I think. So it's not surprising to me that almost every kid in his class is doing their first communion this year. Now, there are a couple exceptions. There are at least two Orthodox girls in the school who have already had First Communion many years ago. So they told me. And I'm like, many years ago, huh? When you were a child, huh?
Yeah.
One of them said, yeah, why I did it when I was little. I was like, because you're not little now.
Yeah.
But anyway, and there's one who's like, his mom is just like, I've got too much going on right now. He can do it in a couple years. So he'll probably do it one day. But so it's hard for me to say. He's not in a public school where there's lots of parents who are maybe completely agnostic or just don't care about the religion at all. So I don't really know, but I would say it's more common than not for kids to have their first communion. It's almost unheard of not to baptize your children in Italy, even if you're not practicing, even if you never go to church, like almost everybody baptizes their kids, unless they're like practicing another religion, obviously, and then no.
Yeah.
But it's very rare.
Yeah. So when it is first communion, are they always the same age?
It's usually fourth or fifth grade. Yeah, it depends how many years that particular parish requires for preparation. Our parish requires 2 years of preparation, but our
Wow.
neighbor's son had to do 3 years. So he's in fifth grade and he just did his. But almost every kid in Aurelio's class is doing it this year.
And what kind of preparation are we talking about here?
Catechism, baby. So you go, it's every Sunday for 1 hour before Mass, starting in early October, and it goes until May. And you know, there's a few Sundays off. Christmas, they take Christmas and New Year's week off, and Easter they take off. But pretty much it's every week, and he has the absolutely loveliest church ladies, for lack of a better, more official term. They're not nuns. They're married women, and they are just adorable, and they're just so sweet and wonderful. And in fact, I'm like, Claudio, I said, Claudio, we got to get presents for the catechiste. That's what you call the people who prepare the children. I'm like, we got to get them some presents. Like, I didn't even think about it, but we got to get them something. Anyways, we'll figure that out. Flowers if we don't have time to do anything else. Um, but yeah, so it's not the actual priest who is preparing them, but he's involved. For example, they do at a certain point, they do their first confession
Oh.
because before you can take first communion, you have to have your first confession. And if I'm not mistaken, that happens at the end of your first year of catechism. And I remember Aurelio being like, "What am I going to confess?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know because I don't get the impression that you sin a lot.
I
Um,
was gonna ask, do you know what he confessed to? Did he tell you?
I think he said it was like not listening to mom and dad and maybe not obeying mom and dad like the first 70 times. Um, but he's a good kid and he doesn't lie that I know of at all. Like I've
Hmm.
never known him to lie to me.
Yes.
So that's a sin that he doesn't need to confess, at least at this point.
Right.
Unless he's just very good at it. No, I'm kidding.
And he's also, we know,
Um,
very tender-hearted, so he's not a big bug killer or anything either. So
No, he's not a
not
bug killer and he's not a bully for sure. He's a sweet, he's not a thief either. So he's a pretty good kid.
that feels like a moment that it would be delightful to be a priest when you have like 15 third graders coming in to confess their sins. That seems like it would be a fun afternoon.
Yeah, probably. It's kind of weird. It's just the whole thing. I mean, I wasn't raised Catholic, so to
Yeah.
me it's still kind of weird. Like and
Yeah.
every time I go to confession, which I go almost never, like I'll go like before Easter, which is kind of what you're technically required to do. Like you're required to go at least once a year at Easter.
Well,
Um,
and what do you admit
I,
to?
You know what? I honestly I admitted once in confession that as someone who was raised Protestant, I had a hard time feeling any obligation to confess through a priest. That it
Hmm.
was, for me, I can talk to Jesus. I honestly confess that. If that's a sin, I don't know, but I did say that.
I don't know if it would be a sin in the Catholic Church or not. I have no idea. Uh,
Yeah, my catechism was too long ago. Don't remember it.
all
But
right.
anyway, so yeah, so that's the preparation part, and then last weekend, so the weekend before his catechism, we did a little mini pilgrimage. I mean, it was about 100 people, and I mean, I'm not sure all of these people. I don't usually see 100 people in church.
Hmm.
It's a small, very small church,
Yes.
but there were about 100 people there, and we did the pilgrimage to St. Peter's Basilica. And I had done a tour that morning.
Hmm.
It was a Saturday. I don't usually do tours on Saturdays, but I had a request, so I did a tour. Lots of walking. And then I think I was at home for an hour before it
Hmm.
was time to go. We parked up on the Gianicolo Hill, walked down into Trastevere, and then we had to walk to St. Peter's. And it's not that far,
Yeah.
but after having done a tour in the morning, I was feeling it. I was definitely feeling it. And it's a slow walk,
Hmm.
which kind of makes it more tiring.
Yeah. Slow
Uh,
meditative stroll to St. Peter's.
exactly. All the way down Via della Conciliazione, which is sort of the way that the pilgrims go in and they give you a cross. It's actually very well organized. I gotta give it to Rome. Like between the, no, I really do because people love to kind of diss Italy and say how disorganized it is,
Hmm.
and Rome as well. And it's actually not the case. It's like not when they need to be. Being the center of the Catholic Church and having conclave happen here and having Holy Year happen here and having lots of other events. I mean, there are always heads of state in Rome because there are always people coming to see the Pope, whoever he
Hmm.
is. The security and the organization of the streets, and it's like they're pros. They must just know how to do it after so many years. I wasn't in Rome for the funeral of Pope Francis, but from what I saw and heard, it was like clockwork. And they had to translate, I think that's the word you use, translate the remains of the Pope from St. Peter's to St. Mary Major on the opposite side of the city. But anyway, just my point is that they're actually very well organized in that respect. But so you get there, you get to the very beginning of Via della Conciliazione, and they've completely redone that area, Katie. You will, if you have ever hung out around Piazza Pia, you'll be like, whoa, this is totally different, because it is totally different.
Great.
And the street that used to go straight through there is now underground. And so there's a nice big piazza, there's a big fountain, and they have this area for pilgrims, and you have to sign up if you're going to be doing this with a group of people. So, anyways, we walked all the way up and went in. There's a special area that you go in, so you don't have to wait in the line of the tourists to get in. You also get a walk-in part of the basilica that is closed off to tourists and go all the way up to the high altar. So yeah, we did that the week before, and now we have First Communion coming up.
Yeah. And thank you. I want to thank you because you said during that like pilgrimage walk, you were thinking about my sister Dana, who is,
I was. I wasn't just thinking about her. I was really actively praying for her,
yes.
and I was imagining Constance, the koala. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you got to go back and listen to an earlier episode called Clive versus Constance, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yes. Where we discussed my sister's brain cancer diagnosis and the fact that she has a visualization of two koala bears that are helping her fight the fight. So yes, Constance is one of those koala bears.
Yes. Yeah, and I also shared a little bit of it of Dana's story with one of those church ladies I was telling you about, who immediately just completely, she didn't start crying, but she became very emotional, and she said she's going to pray for her.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, how is Aurelio? Is Aurelio, after all of this, is he looking forward to his first communion? Or is he kind of like, you know?
Yeah, he's looking forward to it, but like he's hung up on the idea of like what it's going to taste like.
Ah, and you're like, not great, kid, not great.
Yeah, like I'm like, honey, that's not what's important. Don't focus on like the taste and the texture of this cracker, basically, because it's, I was about to say it's about what it symbolizes, but then I was like, no, Tiffany, that's not what Catholics believe. Bad Catholic. That's what Protestants believe.
Right.
But yes, he's looking forward to it, but I think he might be disappointed that it's not like some, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe he will have some mystical experience.
Right. We'll find out. Imagine yourself stepping into the heart of one of the world's most legendary cities, with every turn revealing secrets only a select few have had the privilege to witness. You're not just a tourist, you're an insider, and you are experiencing Rome as it's meant to be seen. This October, from the 5th to the 11th, 2025, for one unforgettable week, Tiffany and I are offering you the chance to embark on an exclusive, tailor-made journey through the Eternal City. Each morning we'll be your expert guides, taking you to Rome's hidden gems, places not found in guidebooks, places not crowded with tourists. We're talking about secret courtyards, forgotten chapels, and ancient ruins off the beaten path, and you'll see it all while learning about the stories that have shaped this magnificent city. But it's more than just sightseeing. It's about experiencing Rome. From sipping coffee in a secluded cafe overlooking the city to wandering through quiet, century-old streets where the footsteps of history seem to echo, and every moment is crafted to make you feel like you've unlocked the city's most intimate secrets. This is me, Katie, here, with your invitation to step beyond the surface of Rome, to go deeper, to truly connect with a place that has captured the world's imagination for millennia. But here's the thing. This isn't a trip for everyone. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for those who want to invest in something more meaningful than just another vacation. You're not paying for just a tour. You're paying for a personal experience that might change how you see the world. So if you're intrigued, if you're ready to take that step and discover Rome in a way that only a lucky few ever will, then don't wait. Reach out to us now. Let us show you Rome like you've never seen it before. You can find details at our website, thebittersweetlife.net. You can also email us, bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com. Ready to make some history? Let's walk through it together this October. And give yourself something to look forward to. Back to the show. Okay, well, before we run out of time, though, I do want to talk. We did a mini episode about the new Pope, Pope Leo, the first American Pope. But before we're out of time, I do want to touch on that a little bit more, since it's kind of a big deal. To have a brand new Pope, when the new Pope was elected, I was, of course, feeling like I was missing out and wishing I was in Rome during this historic moment. However, I was down in California while my sister's been getting treatment up in San Francisco. I was down in California taking care of my niece and nephew for 2+ weeks while she was away doing treatment. And I was actually on the phone with my parents. And Derek was down in California with me during this particular time. He wasn't there the whole time, but he was there for this particular time. And I'm on the phone with my parents talking about whatever. You text me, white smoke. And I'm like, oh my gosh, white smoke. Interrupting whatever my mom or dad was saying. I'm like, so sorry, white smoke. I gotta, So I'm so distracted on the phone. All of a sudden, I'm like, I think I gotta go. I'll call you back. And we're immediately like throwing on the TV, completely glued to it the whole time while the commentators are filling and speculating. They have the camera on the white smoke for a minute there, and then they're kind of panning the crowd. But then they also just have the camera that's fixed on the curtains of the window/room that he's going to walk out of onto the balcony. I've never looked at curtains so hard, where every time you see them shift a little bit, you're like, oh my gosh, the curtain shifted. Nothing happens. It's probably just a breeze blowing through. But it was so exciting. And I did have that thought of like, wow, here's something that historically Catholics, with all of their pomp and circumstance, have done so well that, they put in all these weird, strange things. White smoke, new vestments, the appearance of somebody on a balcony. The way that they do the whole thing is just meant to play with your emotions, meant to heighten the suspense, so that it's almost like the weirdest television show that you can't turn off. Nothing's currently happening and I can't leave the room right now. You know what I mean? It's just,
absolutely,
it's crazy. I know it's a totally different thing to be in the square, like you've talked about on the show, but it's crazy how something that is just like a guy that's about to walk out onto a balcony can be so suspenseful and so full of joy. I mean, the people in the crowd are like crying, they're praying, hooting and hollering, they're waving to the camera. I mean, it's just, in this modern world, it feels so special because it's so archaic in some ways. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's why people are so obsessed with the conclave. It is about the Pope. It is about, electing a very important leader. But it's also just like the ritual of it and all of the rules, and they speak in Latin. I think people love that. It's in a Sistine Chapel of all places, like a place that, is famous throughout the world for the art that it has. And yeah, I think people love that about it, all the different rules and rituals
well, I
that
definitely
have been going on for so long.
Oh, yeah. I think that's too, because it's also fun to be a part of a moment in history that feels like it's a continuous moment in history. Mm-hmm. It's not just the history of our times, but it is something that has happened again and again and again and again back hundreds of years. It is kind of fun to be a part of something that feels that ancient. I will say that I definitely benefited from Derek being there because, as you know from knowing him, he is pretty good with languages. So when they come out and they are speaking in Latin, and let me tell you, whatever television station we were watching, I don't remember which news organization it was, but they had a decent Italian translator at hand. They might not have considered Latin, and the person that they had was like,
Didn't they know that they always speak Latin when they come out?
I don't know. Even Derek's like, this person does not know how to speak Latin, because I guess they were trying to translate it. But anyway, I benefited from Derek being there because when they came out and they said the name, Derek, it has his eyes narrowed in that kind of like you're trying to figure it out way. And he goes, Pope Leo the 14th? and I think I texted it to you. Pope Leo the 14th. He was the first person that I knew that actually knew the name, Pope Leo the 14th. And yeah, and it was very excited. I was taking pictures of the screen of the television.
Yeah, I did. I videotaped it. And I was like, what am I going to do with this videotape?
What am I going to do with this? Yeah, I'm feeling a little choked up. I'm like, I know nothing about this man, and I'm feeling choked up. just because. Just
It,
because.
I don't know why. It's weird. I feel the same way, especially when it was Pope Francis. And I mean, I didn't know anything about him. I had zero clue about Pope Francis. We knew nothing. I mean, unless you were like a real Pope watcher, or whatever.
Yeah.
None of us, he was not on the list, on the short list at all. So I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know who he was going to become as Pope, that he was going to be this Pope of the poor and the marginalized and all this stuff. But nevertheless, I was just like, oh my gosh. And when he asked us all to pray for him,
Yeah.
it was just such a beautiful moment. And this time, yeah, I mean, of course, not quite the same watching it on videotape, but it was still exciting. And I mean, I'm curious, what are people in America saying about the fact that there's an American Pope?
Well, because I've been in the heart of giving childcare down in California, I feel like I'm a little cut off from that information. But I will say, I mean, there's a lot of joking about it going on. Like, the late night comedy hosts have had a field day with it. They're talking about what kind of pizza. People are trying to find like connections in America, people who would have known him. I think people are
Yeah.
looking for like how to make him, at least in the media. I can't say what people on the streets are saying, but how to make him like distinctly American when, everything you read about him is like, yeah, he's American, but he also like has been outside of the country the vast majority of his adult life.
Seeing him at the World Series was for me, well, like, dressed in White Sox gear was like, wow, he's just a dude. He's really just a,
But they're
he's just a
always just a
guy.
dude. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know, but this one seems more of it, more of just a guy. And I think one, that's partially because he's from our country, and so we can hear him when he does speak English. We're like, okay, that's just,
It's just some
he's
guy
just
from
an American
Chicago.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a guy from Chicago. And secondly, because I mean, time will tell, but it seems like he is a kind of regular guy in a way that, for example, someone like Benedict XVI was not just a regular guy. He was a very, very intellectual. Not that Pope Leo is not an intellectual. I think he is, but I think that Benedict XVI was more like professor type, like someone who closes himself off with his books and his piano, and
Yes.
maybe doesn't really like being around people that much, and just kind of a loner. And this guy seems just like I said in that mini episode, he used to go to this gym in Rome, and the people who ran the gym didn't even know he was a priest, let alone a cardinal.
Now, before we run out of time, though, I have to ask, were you the one that wrote to me and said that you had dreamed that you were elected the Pope the day before this
Yeah,
happened?
yes.
I feel like you have to tell us a brief glimpse of this dream because I thought your like takeaway from the dream was pretty profound, actually.
Yeah, I dreamed that I was elected pope, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't me. Like
Yes.
I was a male priest, but I just remember having this thought like, "Oh God, I mean, the whole rest of my life is decided for me. I will be here for the rest of my life. I will have to be doing this job for until the day I die. I'll never be able to walk down the street without security ever again in my life. I'll never be able to just go into a restaurant ever again in my life."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is overwhelming. And I mean, forever. I mean, they're already old men, generally speaking. So
Right.
maybe forever doesn't seem as long to them, but just the idea of like, this is it until I croak,
Yeah.
even if it's an exciting thing like becoming pope, it's like you do not retire from that. I mean, technically you can because Benedict the 16th did retire, but I mean it was just so weird that he retired. I don't think that'll ever happen again,
Mm-hmm.
not in our lifetimes anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just the weight of it. And I'm sure that they get it. Like when they're sitting there in conclave, and there's a story going around, which I believe is true, that has been verified, that Cardinal Tagle, who is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, he was one of the top picks, one of the people that the media was thinking might be Pope. He's from the Philippines. That when the voting started to turn towards Pope Leo, and he was getting a lot of votes. And if you've seen the film Conclave, you know how that might feel,
Mm-hmm.
because you see it play out. He just looked, completely as you would have to look, kind of beside himself. And Cardinal Tagle like offered him some candy.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, thanks.
I'll
Like,
take
I
some
need this.
candy, yeah. I mean, yeah, 'cause your heart would be pounding. I mean, the weight of it all, too.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that there
And
really isn't that much of a turnaround. Like, I don't know if they count the votes and they immediately throw the white smoke into the oven, or if they
I
give
don't
them a minute to kind of,
no, they give him some time, and I think before they do the white smoke, well, I know that before they do the white smoke, the Cardinals applaud, and then they go up to him and they ask him if he will accept, and he has to accept, officially accept. And then I think everyone, I don't know if they kiss his hand or something, make some kind of genuflection. And then it's probably the time that they do the white smoke. And then, of course, it takes about an hour after the white smoke until the Pope appears because, got to get dressed,
yeah.
got to takes time for prayer and all of that. But yeah, it would be cool to be. I mean, I loved watching Conclave. I hadn't seen it. Claudio and I watched it a couple of days after
Oh,
the
really?
election. Yeah, we hadn't seen it. And as I'm watching, I'm like, no, 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 they don't do it like that. Because I had just been doing a lot of research. And I mean, almost everything was right. The only thing that they didn't do was count up the votes before they started reading them. And actually, no, there was something else. There was something else that I was like, that doesn't ring true to me. But most of it seemed very, very accurate. And it was so fun to watch because it was like, wow, this is as close as any of us are ever going to get to
Yeah.
being there.
Yeah. Yeah, and even that movie, from what I've read, couldn't get close enough because they wouldn't let them film it at the actual Vatican. So they had
Of
to
course not.
rebuild a thing that might pass as the Sistine Chapel for those scenes.
It did a great job. It looked
Yeah.
real to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what was different. They didn't have the platform. They always build a platform along the floor of the chapel, and they didn't have that. So that was another thing that was different.
Right.
They had to build a set of the Sistine Chapel for Angels and Demons as well. I wonder if they use the same set. Like, I wonder if it's still around.
It's why they didn't show the ceiling, I'm sure. Well, and for those of you who are in deep suspense, Tiffany, when she was offered the popedom in her dream, did indeed turn it down. I believe
Did I?
is what you said.
I can't remember now. Did
Yeah.
I? I wrote you. I sent you a voice message about it, I
Yeah,
think.
you turned, from what my recollection is, you turned it down. You saw like the long hallway of your life never being yours again, never being in your own control, I think is how you put it, ever again, where you could never like just decide to take a day off and have a cup of tea and read a book all day long. You would always have some sort of responsibility. And he thought, no thanks. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like being a monarch, but it's not because when you're a monarch, you're generally raised for it. I mean, even if you're like the spare, you have, in the back of your head, I could be king one day. And definitely the heir. No, I mean, Prince William, he's known since he was probably 3 years old that he's going to be the king of England someday, and he's mentally ready for it.
Right. Whereas Pope
but
Leo, when he was at that White Sox game, was not thinking, I'm going to be Pope one day.
Exactly.
All right, well, we should leave it there. If it is Memorial Day when you're hearing this, hope it is a good couple days off. And until next time, this is The Bittersweet Life. I'm Katie Sewell.
I'm Tiffany Parks.
Join us again. Bye.
Tiffany popping in. If current events in the United States or wherever you live have been getting you down, I suggest getting some travel plans on the horizon. I don't know about you, but if I have an exciting trip to look forward to, my whole day is just a little bit sunnier. Katie and I are planning our 2025 Roman adventure for this coming October, the 5th to the 11th. This will be our third time hosting this unforgettable and really magical trip. We have had such an amazing time and such an amazing response from our guests these past 2 years to this trip that we put together that we feel is truly out of the ordinary. This is not your typical Roman trip. This is, first of all, a very small group of people. We're capping it at 14 people this year, and it'll probably be closer to 10. We're staying at a beautiful, luxurious hotel where I got married, by the way. That's how beautiful this place is. We will be taking you personally to some of the most exquisite beautiful sights of Rome, many of which are so rare and so unknown that even though the city might be crowded, we will be almost alone in some of these places. Katie and I pride ourselves on our knowledge of Rome, our deep understanding of its culture and its art, and the secrets that most people don't know about. If you'd like to spend a week in Rome with us and with a handful of other listeners in this beautiful hotel, then come to Rome with us in October. It will be an unforgettable trip, and it might just be one of the best trips of your life, as some of our previous guests have told us it was. Get in touch with us on our website, thebittersweetlife.net, or you can send us an email, bittersweetlifepodcast@gmail.com, and we're happy to answer all of your questions. The dates again are the 5th to the 11th of October. Rooms are filling up, and it's a very, very small group, so if you'd like to come with us to discover a side of Rome that most people will never see, then get in touch, and we'll see you in October. Ciao.